Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of BizMeds. We are neuroscience business coaches and your hosts for the show. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darius. And for those of you who have just tuned in, just getting to know us, Saad and I, we help businesses scale. This show is all about the minimum effective dose for your business. I've scaled a business from 60 to 90 million in under 18 months without having to hire additional people or work longer hours, and have discovered a lot of the neuroscience behind that helps that. We also help other businesses scale. One of our clients achieved 32% increase in revenue in under 12 months, again, without having to hire more people, work more hours, and actually get to take vacation. So that's not to impress you, but just to give you, impress upon you that we're here to help you scale your business. We don't get paid for this, but we're here for you. So without further ado, we're going to jump into today's topic.
So Darius, have you ever read a piece of literature that just absolutely changed your life or just gave you new meaning, and in the moment of time, you just kind of like realized things are starting to click now, or something finally makes more sense?
I got very deep very fast.
Yeah.
That took me on a very, I'm like, wow, this is an existential, this is a very existential path I just went on there in that moment. So yes, if I understand you correctly, have I ever read something and it just makes so much sense and just has made a really impact in my life?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there a book you want to kind of start off with?
Yeah. So let's do that. Let's talk about a couple books that have really made a huge difference in our lives. And I'll give a little bit before I give the title away. I'll give a little bit of preface. So again, for those who don't remember or maybe haven't just tuning in for the first time, I grew up in business from the age of 12. I started working for my father's forestry company. And so I had the real great opportunity to grow up inside a business as it grew. And, my father started the company. He was one man and he basically had one machine in the bush, in the forest, working. And we grew that. Eventually we grew it to one of the third largest privately held forestry companies in Canada. And I was a large part of running that organization when I was still very young, like before I was 20. And so I learned business from the inside. And when I started off when I was 12, I was doing bookkeeping. And this is way back in the day for those who remember, computers back in those days were like, they were all on DOS. This is pre-Windows. And so a lot of the bookkeeping I did was in DOS. Maybe there was Windows. It doesn't really matter. But it was a long time ago. And so I grew up in business. And so I learned a lot of lessons without really knowing like how to wrap the ideas around them. And from that very early age, I was always enthralled, and I just had this really, I knew when I went to high school, I was like, well, I'm just going to take business courses because that's all I want to take. And I had, a lot of my friends, they were taking advanced, chemistry, all those, biology, all those. And I was good in the sciences, but it didn't really interest me. So I focused all of my courses on business, and I just kept doing that because I loved that. And it wasn't until later on, so after many years later, when I was looking at when I wanted to start a business, when I would go into business and leverage all this experience I had running this large organization and having to lead people, and manage people twice my age in some cases, right? Much older than I was and things. It was, how do I start to take those ideas and those concepts and solidify them? And so I came across a book, and it was one of those ones, it was told in such a way, it was a story, and which really helps kind of solidify, because I think that when you hear a story, sometimes it makes those concepts kind of like solidify. So without further ado, I mean, the book here is the E-Myth. And this one's E-Myth Mastery, but the original one I read was E-Myth Revisited. And I have a copy of it somewhere, but this is what we're going to do today. And it was written by Michael Gerber. And so he goes through he kind of talks about his experience and, when he was looking at businesses, and it really was an interesting journey through why small businesses fail, why a lot of small businesses fail. And yeah, so that's kind of the book there. I don't know how do you want to do this? Do you want to
Well,
continue to go
yeah,
through,
yeah.
or should we
We can,
now?
yeah,
Like, I've introduced mine.
yeah,
How about
yeah.
I'm going to
So,
ask you this existential question, Assad. Have you ever read a piece of literature
it
that impacted you so much?
just opened my
It
eyes to
opened
the
your eyes
world.
and
Yeah. Well, so the reason when we first started talking about impactful books, I was trying to really relate it to like self-help books, and everybody that has read them knows that there is a lot of knowledge in those books as well that helps you grow. But this one is a bit more of kind of a novel that has life lessons in it. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring it today.
we'll just pretend
It's
there's
like,
one there.
yeah. So here is
We're gonna Photoshop it in.
yeah. So the name of the book is the Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and I'm gonna try to do as good of a job as you did with prefacing why, like it was in, like what led you to understand like this book was a big help for you.
Mhm.
For me, throughout my entire life, I've been very focused on trying to chase the next win, like try to get to the next step. Where a lot of people, might be able to relate is like, how do I become a millionaire? How do I get there a lot faster, without realizing, you have to go through the discomfort and it basically getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And like doing the hard things that most people would shy away from. And the other like big message in that is also like the mindfulness of being aware of your surroundings, like what you're doing. So we talk about this a lot in our podcast is like, for example, routines. We've talked about routines several times, like being mindful of the routines that you have. Like, don't do them just because you're doing them,
Right.
right? Uh, Seeing your like environment, like what you're surrounding yourself with, like being mindful of that, being aware of that,
Right.
and also just being present in every single thing leading up to where you want to be.
So let me ask you this. So
Yeah.
when you think about that book, like how long ago, like where were you in your stage of life when you found, and how did you come across that book?
Well, so it was like very, very early. I was interested in getting involved more in business. I think I was getting involved in the consultancy space
Mhm.
where I was like working with a lot of businesses and again, really focused on trying to like give somebody something
Right.
immediately. Like I want to give you something, but not knowing if there's actually value in it or like being mindful of the little impact that it could have. So when I read that book, it helped me take a breather and a step back and being
Did
more.
someone recommend that book to you?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
it was my massage therapist at the time
Okay.
because like you get to talking and
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
it was like in my conversations, I think she picked up that I was very anxious and very driven to try to do things, but not having an understanding of why I'm doing those
Right.
things. Just wanted to do them.
Yeah.
It was the same thing as like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, but what are you gonna do to become a millionaire? Like,
What's the purpose behind it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and what's the value you're giving people that is gonna justify for you to
Yes.
make millions of dollars,
Yeah.
right? You can't just be like sitting on the couch and making millions of dollars. I mean, you could if you're a
If you build a business,
yeah,
right?
exactly, right. So anyway, like, and that's kind of how I got introduced to the book, and when I started going through it, it helped me realize that like everything you do needs to have a purpose. It's like the yin and the yang type
Listen.
of message around that. Like every what is it? Like every force has an opposite reaction.
Yeah, for
What
every
is that?
action, there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Yeah,
Right. So we
exactly.
talk
Yeah.
about when emotion goes up, intelligence goes down.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talk about how, peop one of the big things we are a big proponent of is like the 1 month day where um we've worked with a lot of clients that before they actually get involved in it, They're like, "Ah, you know what? Like, I would just rather be working for 30 days. But what if you could sacrifice one entire day and have the rest of the month to yourself to
Yeah.
do more things? Or you could just, layer in like multiple 1 month days
Yeah.
throughout the month. But people are not willing to do that, right? So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because like one of the other messages in that book is like doing the uncomfortable thing,
Right.
and most people shy and fear away from it. Yeah.
And okay, so take that idea a little bit further. So I think so what I'm hearing is, okay, yeah, don't shy away from but why? What's the why behind that?
Uh, the fears and the discomfort is what helps people grow.
Right.
Um, and so if you
Why
read,
was that meaningful for you?
why was that meaningful for me?
Yeah.
One of the things that really stood out for me was that I was uncomfortable with challenging myself to do more. And I was more comfortable staying in the state I was in because I was doing really good at it.
Right.
So we don't ever use gym examples, but imagine you start, with 20-pound curls and you just keep doing 20-pound curls for
Right.
the rest of your life. It's easy.
Yeah.
Like
It gets
you're not
easy.
challenging or growing yourself.
It might be hard in the beginning.
Yeah. It might be hard in the beginning, but like
Right.
when you get to the 10 reps and you start doing 12, you start
Yeah,
doing
you just keep doing the
15.
same thing.
Yeah.
Right. You don't put yourself
It
beyond
doesn't
that.
really challenge you as much.
Yeah.
And you wonder like why you're not growing and you're not getting stronger. It's because you're not adding more weight, right? So that's why it was meaningful for me, because in the state of life I was at the time, which was I think like 10 years ago now, um, excuse me, just felt like I was the best in the space I was at and nobody could touch me in that space. But again, I was also in a small pond, right?
Yeah.
So going to a bigger pond, it was a little scary. It's like, why would I do that when I'm the king of the small pond, right?
Right.
So it opened my eyes to a lot of different things, like that you have to jump ponds for your own growth. And just to kind of wrap up that thought, have you heard the idea of like a shark in a like small aquarium? It'll only grow as big as its environment.
Yeah.
And if you put it in a bigger environment, it'll grow more.
Right.
Bigger environment, it'll grow more. So that's kind of like what, when I read the book, started piecing together like the growth of life.
Right.
Yeah. You can get pretty philosophical about it
Oh,
because
that's okay. I think
yeah.
I think that's the value of why these books have probably impacted, and specifically you the way it has.
Mhm.
Right? Because you've taken that and you've applied that into many other things, and you've extracted that lesson into many other areas of your life, personally and business as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that one of the books that you would?
I would recommend that book to somebody that is struggling to understand why they're doing what they're doing and why they're not willing to challenge themselves to do more. It really breaks down. So the book is by Dan Millman. It is kind of a play on his own life, and the main character's name is Dan, and so it kind of like puts perspective in a completely different scenario. The main character is a gymnast, has a career limiting injury, and is not willing to try again because that one failure scarred him,
Right.
and pushing through that to get back to it.
Interesting. I mean, if you think about that, there's a lot of people we've met, or even times in our own lives where we have something that potentially feels really bad,
Yeah.
and that prevents us from moving forward in a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, people feel that it could be very detrimental to their business if they do something wrong and it just absolutely shuts down the business, but are not able to bounce back from it, or like adapt to it.
Right. And
So
and that's how you build resilience.
yeah,
Funny
exactly.
enough,
Yeah.
is through those, right? Through adversity, it's through challenges, through setbacks, through failures.
Yeah.
Some don't call it failure, but it's really like I've always looked at those, well, not maybe always, but learned to look at those as opportunities to learn.
Mhm.
It doesn't always feel like it in the moment, and
Mhm.
doesn't make it feel any better when you're going through it, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And the example right now that comes to my mind immediately is the COVID example, right? There's a lot of businesses that really, really were dependent on traffic
Yeah.
coming in physically. And when that happened, when the pandemic happened, the businesses that were able to quickly adapt and understand like that
Yeah.
there are ways to still continue growing,
Yeah.
right? Or doing more, stayed in business.
Yeah.
The rest, that were not, unfortunately, did not have people like us talking to them and letting them know, or like walking through like different
Yeah.
scenarios of what's valuable.
Or yeah, multiple things in there. Control what you can control, be able to pivot and think beyond just kind of like, this is the way we've always done it. There's no other way. It's that whole growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of things that happen in that space, right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me more about your book.
I mean, what would you like to know?
Why would you recommend that to somebody?
I think every business owner needs to read it. I introduced it and I said, it was really interesting because he talks about why a lot of small businesses fail, and why do a lot of small businesses fail? Well, because a lot of businesses, they start and it's really around the E-myth. It stands for the entrepreneurial myth. And it's Michael, he describes it as, and I love this analogy, is he says, you know what, you're doing this job. Maybe in the book, he talks about Sarah and her business. She makes pies, right? But Sarah bakes pies, and she has what's called the entrepreneurial seizure. She has this like moment where she's struggling, like, oh my God, I'm really good at making pies. I should start a business, a pie business. And so begins that, because you start a business, you're suddenly entrepreneurial, and by nature, yes, starting a business is entrepreneurial, but he introduces like different, like there's 3 hats that business owners end up taking on. It's the entrepreneur, the manager, and technician. And a reason why a lot of business fails is because a lot of the entrepreneurs, the people that decide to go into business, get stuck in the technician or the doing of the work. They end up baking pie, and that's not what is required to actually grow a business. There's a lot more that's involved, and so I think it's an eye-opening book, and it gave a lot of like really good, just kind of aha moments around, this is what the typical life of quote unquote entrepreneur or business owner is they wake up one day, I've been doing this for how many years, I'm really good at it, I'm going to start a business, rock and roll. And then, well, you're struggling because why? Well, you don't really realize that there's these other roles that you have to take on, especially in the early days. And that the entrepreneur role is different than the manager role, different than the technician role. And if you stay in the technician role and never grow the business or build the business, work on the business, and you're always in the business, and that's where a lot of that terminology came from,
Right.
is really important.
Right.
And, and part of the underlying thing for that is systems and processes are really, really important for business. And that's what brings a lot of that repeatability, how you maintain quality. Because if you're trying to do something different every way, like how do you ever know what's working, what's not working?
Yeah.
And so, the story of Sarah and her pies, I think it's all about pies. And Sarah is the baker and she's the owner and she's trying to grow her business. And Sarah has to stop baking pies and start growing the business and find a way to make, hire people to make the pies and
The same
things
quality,
like that.
same, yeah.
Exactly. And that's a very hard mind shift, because there's a lot of clients, and trust me, I work with them all the time, that have Sarah's mentality of the technician. It's, I like doing this work. Yes. You now have a greater responsibility, because you started this business and you want to grow this business, and you have additional responsibility. So that's why I think, just from a business education, I have a lot of the clients read it if they haven't already, because it's a really good foundational piece for understanding what's kind of happened. It gives a lot of context, so probably a lot of validation to what they've been experiencing.
Yeah.
And then also introduces the idea of systems. And this was the first book that allowed me to understand the thing that I had been doing just kind of inherently in business is building these repeatable systems or processes at least, and then how to create systems from those. And that
Mhm.
was a game changer in being able to help other businesses to do that, right? And start putting it together, and why it's such a foundational piece.
Yeah.
And then you layer in the manager and entrepreneur, and why leadership and all these things are really important.
Mhm.
And now how you start to grow. So that for me was a really pivotal piece, especially as I first ventured out when I first started my first company as a business coach. It was, I need kind of a better framework to kind of like explain this. And that made a lot of sense. It was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what's happening, and allowed me to kind of recontextualize or reframe kind of like my experience and what I was doing inherently in the business to like, oh yeah, this is exactly what it is. And it was a good framework. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where that is. It's I don't think it ever, like, it's never not applicable.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those timeless pieces that really all business for me, it was like, again, all
Mhm.
business is the same.
Yeah.
You could be baking pies, you could be fixing cars, you could be, you know, um, coaching, you could be doing whatever, but the business is essentially like
Yeah.
businesses are essentially the same.
Yeah. If you were able to quickly just say, like, what are the 3 characteristics or 3 key things you would get out of this book, high level, I think I picked up 2. Maybe let me know if those are correct or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, 1, the role of a business owner, and what does that mean?
Mhm.
The system you need to implement to have the business growing. I don't know what a 3rd one.
Okay, so I mean, I would say it's maybe you don't know the system, but like the importance of systems, and
Right.
then how you would start to build those systems.
Yeah,
and
sorry,
and
that's what.
and doing that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing it would do is really understand the 3 hats. So the entrepreneur, the role of the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician, and
Mhm.
help you as a business owner understand where you're getting stuck in technician work.
Mhm.
And that's actually probably preventing you from moving to the next level, and why it's important that you have to spend time as the manager and the entrepreneur, specifically entrepreneur doing that higher value strategic work of where you want to go, and then building the processes and systems to support that.
Right.
And then your manager's obviously like managing the inside of the business.
Mhm.
So like that's another level of that. And I think as a just kind of a bigger piece, the main thing is I think it helps you just understand that you're not alone.
Yeah.
As a business owner, like this is probably what you've experienced. Like you had this idea, which was probably the entrepreneurial seizure, and you suddenly decide you're going to go into business, and the things that you're feeling are not uncommon. They are actually experienced by most business owners all the time. So there is hope. There is a way out.
Mhm.
Um, and that is probably a really good comforting thing to know, is that there is a way through
Right.
all of it.
Yeah.
And there's practical steps to do that. Right. And then there, of course, I would just say, as an impactful book, I think every business owner should read that, simply because it's going to help you understand you're not alone. There's a way through, and here's the different things that are happening inside. And
Yeah.
here is the really key foundations to help you kind of start to put that together.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one of the impactful books. I mean, you've seen the library. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really hard to, I think this is a segment we do every so often, is just talk about another book and why it's been really impactful, and
Yeah.
continue. Cause like I still use the E-Myth with clients to this day, and it's been years, like it's been over 15 years.
Yeah. No,
E-Myth.
I agree with you. Like, this is a great way to, because a lot of times I myself don't know what book I need to read and why I need to read it. And instead of, because there's so many books out there,
Yes.
right? This isn't a quick, easy way to give our perspective on like how it's impacted like our clients, how it's impacted us in our business
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. And if that helps someone, then great. That's what we want. I mean, fundamentally, we believe that leaders are readers. You don't come into this world knowing everything. There's a tremendous amount of information out there. Books are one of the most densest forms of information that you can consume. Kind of like if you think about time invested, like per minute, it's got some of the highest density of information in them,
You're
right? Because the typical book usually takes out quite a bit of time to prepare
Mhm.
and to put in and to produce. So if you think about a book like this, maybe it took a year or two of someone's life to put together, maybe longer, who knows, right? Think of a podcast like this, 30 minutes, 25 minutes of your life, right? Now, not saying that this podcast is valuable, but it takes us less time to prepare for 30 minutes of this podcast than you would for 30 minutes of time in a book. So like why do we talk about books and why are we such huge supporters of reading? Well, because from a neuroscience perspective, because you don't know everything,
Mhm.
right? It helps load your pattern recognition system, right? So the more stuff you can at least even get into your subconscious, because your subconscious can take in so much more information than your conscious mind, the more you're able to take in when you are doing the kind of the deep work and or trying to figure something out, your brain, your subconscious will be able to has more to draw from.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important. Like you're not going to remember everything in that book, but if it helps give you some more of the ammunition that like maybe 6 months down the road, 2 years down the road, that connects with like three other things that you finally got all of that and they make that final connection and something that blows the doors open for you.
Mhm.
That's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're going to end it there.
Yep.
So those are the two impactful books. So it's Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan
Millman.
E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Highly recommend both of those books. And yeah, that's it for today's show. We are BizMeds. We are your neuroscience business coaches here to give you the minimum effective dose for your business. I'm Darius.
My name is San.
And we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for tuning in today. Thank you so much. Our moms, Saad's mom, love you. Thank you so much. Mom, love you. Thank you so much. If you just joined us, we appreciate you spending the time with us. We don't get paid to do this. We don't get sponsored. We're just here to invest in you. If you've been an OG, again, we thank you so much. The only thing we ask is don't be a hoe. Share the show, as Andy Fratella says, and that's what we would like. We have a free masterclass below. Sign up for that, where we show you how to reclaim at least 2 days a week of your life back so you can actually focus on the most important things. And that's completely free. So get in there and get on it. And remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We're going to see you in the next episode.